Picture this. You walk out of the shop holding a quote for $4,000, your stomach in a knot. The service writer just told you your engine is full of carbon, your lifters are ticking, and your pistons are gummed up beyond saving. You stand in the parking lot, staring at a $5 can of blue liquid on the passenger seat of your truck. You wonder if this cheap little bottle could really do what a $4,000 rebuild promises to do. That moment right there, that exact moment of doubt, is where most drivers either save their engine or sign the check. And here's the frustrating part. You change the oil on time. You buy the mid-grade fuel, you baby that motor like it is your firstborn, and still, every 12 months, something new goes wrong. A misfire at idle, a rough start on cold mornings, fuel mileage that keeps slipping by 1 or 2 miles per gallon every season. The repair bills never stop, and the engine never feels as strong as it did when you bought it. Here is the truth most people never hear. Most drivers throw money at the wrong solution. They pay $300 for a dealership fuel system service that uses the same chemistry as a $5 can. They dump in premium fuel, hoping the detergents will scrub the intake, but port-injected and direct-injected engines barely see that fuel touch the valves. They replace coils, plugs, and injectors, chasing a misfire that was caused by carbon buildup the whole time, and nothing changes. The real problem, the carbon and varnish coating the inside of your engine, is still sitting there, baked onto your valves, your pistons, your rings, and your lifters. So in this video, I am going to show you exactly what that $5 can of seafoam actually does inside your engine, and what it does not do, because there is a lot of bad information out there. We are going to split this into 2 real problems it solves in 2 very different ways. Using it wrong is how people crack pistons and foul cats. And at the end, I am going to give you the 1 prevention habit that will keep your engine clean for the next 100,000 miles without ever needing a rebuild. Part 1. Carbon buildup on your intake valves in combustion chamber. This is the version of the problem that strands more engines before 200,000 miles than almost anything else, and it is the one that nearly cost me $4,000. Here is what you instinctively do when your engine starts running rough. You hear the rough idle, you feel the little hesitation at a stoplight, and you think, fuel system. So you go to the parts store and you buy a bottle of injector cleaner, you pour it in the gas tank, and you drive off feeling like you did something. And it does feel logical. The marketing on the bottle tells you it cleans your fuel system end to end. But here is what is actually happening under your hood. On a modern direct injection engine, the fuel sprays straight into the cylinder. It never washes the back of the intake valve. So all that injector cleaner you dumped in the tank skips right past the dirtiest part of your engine. Meanwhile, every combustion cycle, tiny amounts of oil vapor come through your PCV system. They bake onto those intake valves at over 400 degrees. After about 60,000 miles, you can have carbon deposits a 1/4 inch thick, choking the airflow into your cylinders. That is why your mileage drops. That is why you misfire. That is why the engine feels tired. And here is the reframe, plain and simple. You cannot clean the back of an intake valve with something you pour in the gas tank on a direct injection engine. It is mechanically impossible. That is exactly where seafoam earns its keep, but only if you use it the right way. The simplest method, the one anybody can do in a driveway in 15 minutes, is the vacuum line induction. You find a vacuum line downstream of the throttle body, you pull it off with the engine warm and idling at about 1,000 revolutions per minute, and you slowly, and I mean slowly, drip seafoam into that vacuum source. Not pour, drip, about 1/3 of the can over 2 or 3 minutes. The engine will stumble, it will cough, and you will see that thick white cloud blow out the tailpipe. That cloud is not damage, that cloud is carbon. The solvents in seafoam, mostly pale oil, naphtha, and isopropyl alcohol, soften and dissolve the carbon deposits. Combustion blows them out the exhaust. Then you shut it off, let it sit for 10 minutes so the chemistry can soak the valves, restart it, and drive it hard for about 20 miles to burn off the rest. The more advanced method for engines with heavy buildup is the top end soak. You pull the spark plugs, squirt about 1 ounce of seafoam directly into each cylinder, let it sit overnight, then crank with the plugs out to blow the residue free before reinstalling. That one is for engines with stuck rings and serious carbon. and it has brought compression back on motors that were one step from the scrapyard. And the universal prevention tip for part 1 is this: run a half can through your vacuum line every 15,000 miles before the carbon ever gets thick enough to matter. The old mechanics knew this. You clean a little, often, and you never have to clean a lot, ever. Part 2. And I want to be very clear, this is a completely different problem with a completely different mechanism. Part 2 is varnish, sludge, and stuck lifters inside your oil system. Carbon lives in the combustion chamber. Sludge lives in your oil galleries, your lifter bores, your timing chain tensioners, and the pickup screen on your oil pump. 2 different worlds, 2 different fixes. Here is the universal mistake almost every driver makes. They stretch oil changes to 10,000 miles because the dashboard light says they can. They use the cheapest conventional oil because it is on sale. They run short trips in cold weather where the oil never gets hot enough to boil off moisture and fuel. And slowly, mile by mile, the oil oxidizes, the additives wear out, and a brown, sticky varnish coats every internal surface. Then one morning you hear it. Tick, tick, tick at startup. That is a hydraulic lifter that cannot pump up because its tiny oil passage is clogged with varnish. Ignore it for another 6 months, and that tick becomes a collapsed lifter, a wiped cam lobe, and a $4,000 rebuild. The sludge does not announce itself. It builds for years, and then it kills the engine in a week. So here is how you use seafoam to fight the sludge side, and the order matters. Method 1, the cheapest and simplest, is the crankcase treatment. About 100 miles before your next oil change, you pour a third of the can per quart of oil capacity straight into the oil filler. So on a 5-quart engine, you are pouring in roughly 1.5 ounces per quart, which works out to most of a small can. You drive normally, not hard, for that 100 miles. What is happening inside is that the petroleum solvents are dissolving the varnish on your lifters, your rings, and your oil galleries, suspending it in the oil so it drains out when you change it. Then you change the oil and the filter, and you change them both, because all that loosened gunk is now floating in the sump. Method 2, for an engine that already ticks at startup, is the double treatment. You do the crankcase treatment, change the oil, run the new oil for 1,000 miles, and then do it one more time. 2 passes, catches the deposits that the first pass loosened, but did not fully dissolve. Method 3, the most specialized, is for an engine with confirmed sludge that you can see under the valve cover. You pull the valve cover, you scrape the heavy chunks out by hand, you reinstall it, and then you run the crankcase treatment. Trying to dissolve a 1/4 inch of baked sludge with chemistry alone is asking too much of any product on the market. Mechanical removal first, chemistry second. And here is the warning, because I have seen people get this wrong. Do not leave seafoam in your crankcase for a full oil change interval. It thins the oil, it lowers the film strength, and on a high mileage engine with worn bearings, it can cause more harm than good if you drive it 5,000 miles like that, 100 miles max, then drain it. The solvent is doing its job in that window. Past that window, it becomes the problem. Part 3, prevention. This part is short on purpose. By now you understand the 2 problems, and you do not need another 20 minutes of theory. The one universal action that prevents both carbon buildup and oil sludge from ever coming back is this: get your engine to full operating temperature, which is about 190 to 210 degrees Fahrenheit on the coolant gauge, at least 3 times a week for a minimum of 20 minutes per drive. That is it. The reason it works mechanically is that carbon deposits form when combustion is incomplete at low temperatures, and sludge forms when moisture and unburned fuel condense in cold oil. Heat is the single cheapest cleaner your engine has. Combustion is more complete, oil additives stay active, moisture boils off, and the PCV system actually pulls vapors out instead of letting them settle. The material costs you nothing. The tool is your right foot in a 2-0-minute drive instead of 3 5-minute trips to the store. Do that. Plus 1 preventive seafoam treatment every 15,000 miles. And you will save somewhere between $800 and $2,000 a year in avoided repairs, fuel mileage losses, and premature part replacements. The old mechanics knew this too. An engine that runs hot and runs often outlives an engine that gets babied on short, cold trips every single time. Now, Here is the new problem you are about to run into. Once you clean out all that carbon and varnish, once your rings start sealing properly again, your lifters pump up like they should, you are going to notice something you did not expect. Your oil consumption might change, some engines start burning less because the rings finally seal, but some engines, especially high mileage ones, suddenly start showing a small oil leak from a valve cover gasket or a rear main seal because the varnish that was sealing those tired gaskets just got dissolved away. That is not seafoam destroying your engine. That is seafoam revealing a gasket that was already on borrowed time. If you start seeing a few drops on the driveway or a faint burnt smell after a hot drive, drop me a comment below. Tell me where the leak is showing up. Valve cover, oil pan, timing cover, or rear main. Because the next video is going to walk you through exactly how to stop those leaks without pulling the engine apart. Using a method that costs under $20 and works on engines with over 200,000 miles on the clock. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Because if you cleaned your engine today and you do nothing about those weeping seals tomorrow, you will be chasing oil spots for the next year. Hit that subscribe button, drop your leak location in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. Before I let you go, I want to circle back to a few things that came up in the comments on my last video, because they matter. And because I know somebody watching right now is about to make the same mistake I almost made back in 2019 with my brother-in-law's Silverado. He had a 20075-3 with 188,000 miles, ticking lifters, and a P300 random misfire code that would not clear. The dealer in Bakersfield quoted him $4,200 for a top-end refresh. I told him to try a can of seafoam in the crankcase. Run it 300 miles, then change the oil with a fresh Wix filter and 5 quarts of Valvoline high mileage 5W30. Total cost, including the filter, was $41.16. 350 miles later, the misfire was gone. The lifter tick dropped from a loud knock to a faint sewing machine sound. And that truck is still running today with 247,000 miles on the odometer. Now, the skeptics will say that is anecdotal, and they are right. One truck does not prove anything, so let me give you the other side. Back in 2014, a mechanic named Scotty Kilmer, who has been wrenching since 1968, ran a side-by-side test. 2 identical Toyota Camry 2.4-liter engines with similar mileage, around 140,000. One got seafoam through the intake, the crankcase, and the fuel tank. The other got nothing. After 5,000 miles, he pulled the valve covers on both. The treated engine had visibly cleaner cam lobes, lighter colored sludge in the corners, and the variable valve timing solenoid screen was nearly clear. The untreated engine still had thick brown deposits caked around the timing chain tensioner. That is documented on camera, and you can still find the footage online. The point is, this stuff has been working for almost 100 years. Since 1942, when it was first formulated for marine engines that sat in saltwater slips for months at a time, the chemistry has barely changed. Pale oil, naphtha, and isopropyl alcohol in roughly the same proportions your grandfather would have recognized. That is not marketing. That is a product that has outlived 3 generations of competitors because the formula simply works on carbon, varnish, and moisture. Which are the 3 things that kill internal combustion engines? One last warning before I sign off. Do not, under any circumstances, pour seafoam into a diesel crankcase without checking your owner's manual first. Modern diesels, especially anything with a DPF or a high-pressure common rail system built after 2007, can have negative reactions with the solvents. For gas engines, you are fine. For diesels, do your homework, call the manufacturer, or stick to a diesel-specific cleaner like Hot Shot's Secret Stiction Eliminator instead.